Welcome, everyone. This is part 7 of the series, The Psychology Needed to Grow the Entrepreneur, because you don't grow your business unless the entrepreneur grows as well. Today's about the hidden behaviors that impact your profits. I'm going to include some taboo topics that are not often spoken about. So here's what we're going to be covering today: 35 minutes with a 5-minute Q&A. I want to examine the hidden behaviors that are happening that impact your business profits. Number 2, I'd love to raise your awareness of how this might be stopping you from your personal growth, which is in turn reducing your profits. You can become the weakest link in your business. Number 3, I want to provide 3 practical strategies that are going to reverse some of these hidden behaviors. Here's just a tiny bit about me. I'm an emotional intelligence coach and I'm a mentor. I'm a qualified psychotherapist too. I also have written a book called Navigating Stress. This was done in 2021 when COVID was rife, and I was approached by a publisher to release my book. So I work with business owners who really want to be psychologically strong, and they want to confidently master their heart and their head trash to increase their profits and reduce their costs. Let's do an assessment. I want you to think about whether you have bad coping behaviors at the moment. Think about the emotional, mental, and physical and spiritual side of yourself. What behaviors might you be doing right now to help you to cope in business? Think about that on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you don't have very many or none, and 10 where you have an awful lot. And I'm going to be asking you this question at the end to see whether your self-evaluation has changed. What exactly are coping behaviors? Now, I've got the picture here of a big mug, and it says big hug mug. But really, when we are doing our coping behaviors, we're trying to make ourselves feel better and experience more pleasure, and also stopping the things that are going to cause us more pain. Human beings are very clever at moving towards pleasure and moving away from pain. So, what does that actually look like? Now, you might have your own personal dynamite, the things that you do when you need to cope. Sometimes it's fueled by fear. Sometimes we just avoid things. We might try escaping. We might try numbing our feelings. We might just try to tune out. How about hesitating and procrastinating? There's also self-sabotage. We can get into denial, and then we can use a lot of justification and excuses as to why we are doing something or not doing something. But it can also make you do this. These are the taboo topics, the things that people don't talk about a lot. You might get into drinking more alcohol. Now, it's an easy thing to do and it's an easy thing to slip into. Okay, so excessive alcohol. You might be smoking or smoking more. How about compulsive sexual behaviors? There's lots of addictions, especially around pornography. You might notice that you're becoming more aggressive. You might notice that you're taking more risks in life, getting into extreme sports and doing extreme behaviors. There's always gambling. It might be something that you're starting to do more of. You might simply just be overworking. There might be some emotional manipulation that's happening. You might be exerting that on other people. You might start to make reckless financial decisions. Sometimes the gambling can go hand in hand with encouraging you to make reckless financial decisions. You could also have disordered eating habits, overeating, undereating. There can be chronic procrastination. And finally, you could be avoiding difficult conversations. So it could look like any of these. And at the time when we're doing them, it feels like we are moving away from the pain and moving towards pleasure. But the biggest trigger in all of our lives is the emotion of fear. Now, fear can be real or it can be imagined, but it's the body's response to stress. And it leads us to being very vigilant and watching out for things that might happen. We tend to move away from the enemy to preserve life. There are other emotional triggers that are going to come into play as well. Things like embarrassment, things like humiliation, frustration. You might experience confusion or loneliness or sadness, or simply, as I said, anxiousness. You might be feeling ashamed or guilty or jealous or helpless, just simply feeling stressed. You might be depressed. You might be experiencing grief. So notice that some of these emotions might be at play and they might be influencing what you do. So, what business challenges trigger these kinds of behaviors? Got a very long list here, but there might be things that are happening inside the business. There's financial struggles, cash flow problems, or lack of profitability. You might be losing a client or about to lose a client. Having long term clients is so important to stability and our confidence and making us feel good about life. So, the thought of losing a client can be terrifying. You might be looking at employee turnover or losing a key member of staff. There could be leadership pressure, the constant pressure to lead and make those tough decisions. People are looking at someone, and it tends to be you. You might be experiencing overwhelm, juggling too many responsibilities and tasks. How about the lack of work life balance? You're feeling unable to balance your personal life with the business demands. We can also look at burnout, prolonged stress that leads to emotional exhaustion. Internally in the business, we could be just experiencing poor sales performance, declining sales, or missed revenue targets. We're failing to meet or achieve our goals. We're not hitting new milestones or objectives. And finally, you might just be having negative feedback from clients, from employees, harsh criticisms, which are making you feel not so good. That's all I can say. How about the things that might be happening in your personal life? So, internally, you. Let's look at the you related topics. You might be experiencing a lack of purpose. You might be questioning the meaning of life or the meaning behind your work. You might also have relationship strains, so conflict and neglect in personal relationships. This can be happening at home, it can be happening within the organization with other people, but strains in your relationship, and it's taking your focus away from the business. You could be missing out on life events. I'm feeling really sad that I'm missing out on all these personal milestones, great family events, because I have to work. Internal reasons might be the fear of failure, that constant anxiety that can grip all of us about the possibility of business failure. How about feeling unappreciated? You don't feel recognized or valued by your clients, by your employees, by your peers. These feelings could be coming into play. You might be experiencing a fear of rejection. You might have an anxiety over pitching those ideas, securing new clients. You also might be experiencing regret. Past business decisions, perhaps they didn't go so well, and you're living in that place of regret. You've lost relationships, you've lost connections. How about just missed opportunities in life? Um, Sadness just from having let opportunities slip through your fingers. So that's again regret. And then there's emotional baggage, carrying those unresolved things around with us to do with how we've grown up, the beliefs that we've taken on board. It can impact the way that we make decisions and affect our mood. So lots of personal experiences, as I've said, and the pressure that we have when making decisions can be a big one, making you unsure of the outcomes. Everything's just so unpredictable and risky, and it's bringing in fear, anger, overwhelm, worry, and doubt. There might be personal experiences where you're looking at your expectations. You think you're falling short of your own high standards. Perhaps they're too high. You feel like you've let yourself down, that you're not good enough. You might feel that you've just let your business down or let your colleagues down. And again, look out for these fear, feelings, anger, overwhelm, worry, and doubt. How about an experience where we just simply compare ourselves to other comparisonitis, comparing yourself to your competitors, comparing yourself to your peers? How about watching other people online, reading their social media? It just makes you feel bad about you. So lots of behaviors, and they can be masking much deeper issues, unspoken deeper issues. So I hope you're getting the picture around the things that might be impacting you in your business, the behaviors that can come up. Let's take a deeper dive now at some of the solutions, because beyond talking about problems, we know that we always have to find solutions. Big question for you is, what would it be like to design your own human being? If you were involved in designing the first human being in the world, how would you help it to not fall for everything that comes its way, to think in a deeper way, to not feel like you're being operated like a puppet on a string? The problem is that we do have a stress response, and it's part of an ancient survival mechanism. It operates automatically, it makes us respond to danger. And we have the nervous system, again, an internal biological freeway or highway or motorway, and that operates really, really quickly. It operates fast. It can make us fall into a habit, a pattern. I call it a trance sometimes, because inside our brain we have a limbic system. It's the emotional center. Let's call it the emotional HQ, headquarters. And it simply wants you to feel good all of the time. Wouldn't that be amazing? We have lots of emotions, and you could look at those as being our caveman notification apps. Lots of dings and pings going off, letting us know that there's something going on. It's literally shouting at us and reminding us that we should be feeling good and how we ought to act to feel that way. So these are things which are quick, and it's difficult to override those. But break the habit we can, and break the trance we can. And here are some pointers for you to think about. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to see the problem, to see the trigger, and to take a completely different action. A bit like James Bond. You've got to go in there, see the mission. Are you willing to take that? Because you're starting to break down the cycle between what happens, the trigger that sets it off, and how you're going to behave differently. You have to start making different choices, saying no, rejecting that trigger and stopping that automatic behavior, like being a hamster on a treadmill. As soon as you get the cue, you hop onto your treadmill, your little hamster wheel, and you're carrying out the behavior. So that's the cycle that you need to break. You need to take that different action, like Route 66 that travels all the way across from the west coast of America over to the east coast. Take a different action, follow a different route. That again is your job about breaking that cycle. Easier said than done, but it's possible. So there's a lot going on, and I do hope you're still with me. I want you to ask bigger, bolder questions. Recognize the emotions or the behaviors. See them as signals. See them as ways of saying, hey, have you noticed this? Hey, how about trying this? Also, you could stop resisting and altering the data that's coming in. We're very good at taking information in and making it something that is more palatable, that sits well with our current beliefs, our current values. So stop resisting the truth, see it as it is, and work with that. Think about, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What is this behavior trying to tell me right now? It will help you to get to the root cause of things. Solution number one that I like to share is controlling your breathing. Slow, rhythmic, longer on the out breath breathing. This is the fastest way to get your stress response to start calming down. Solution number two, I mentioned breaking the trance and stopping running that program, but imagine there is a program that gets hit automatically without you realizing it, and you start carrying out the actions, and then before you know it, you're at the end of it and you wonder why you did that. That happens to me a lot when I start eating cream cakes or chocolate, but it depends on what emotion I'm feeling and what I've decided is my coping mechanism. So you need to get off that hamster wheel. Remember, there's the trigger, That's what sets you up, the business challenge that you're facing. Then you're going to move on to the routine. You're going to start running that program, carrying it out almost automatically. And it's going to lead to the cycle where you complete it with the reward. You get that relief from the feeling or the thought that you were having. You might experience some pleasure at that point, or it might simply be that there's no pain. And I say no pain yet, because getting stuck in a negative cycle is a very short term way of dealing with problems. Solution number three is to remind yourself of your values. Very interesting one. What do you stand for? What would you do if nobody was watching? How do you lead your life? These are non negotiables in life. Now, my values match my self identity, I hope. I'm a resilient person. I bounce back from tough times and I keep going. I'm an honest person. I tell the truth. I do the right thing, even when it's hard. I'm a creative person. I find new ways to solve problems and make things better. I'm a brave person, courageous person. I do face my fears and I try new things even when I'm scared. I'm a curious person. I ask questions and I always want to learn more. I'm a disciplined person. I stick to my plans and I finish what I start. So these are some of my values. I've got six down here. Things that I hopefully do automatically. Sometimes it doesn't work out though for me, and life can make me compromise some of these values. As I said, resilience, honesty, creativity, brave and courageousness, curiosity and discipline, they're things that guide my life. I also want you to look at whether these values might be something that you hold dearly. You might say, I'm a kind person. I'm a focused person. I'm very adaptable. Or I'm a very grateful person. Or I'm persistent. Or I am a leader. Or I am accountable. I hold myself accountable for the things that I do. I look at my mistakes and I own up to them. One more set of values that you might find useful. Again, I'm throwing these out there so you can think about whether they resonate with you. You might say, I'm an optimistic person, or I'm a humble person. I'm balanced. I'm empathic. I'm transparent. You might say, I'm very self aware, or I'm a visionary. So, just a sample of things that you can say about yourself. And again, this is you looking at your own identity and working out what drives you. What three or four things are always going to be the way that you lead your life. And you do that in a really automatic way. I want you to break the programs. I do want you to listen to your own values, listen to them when you're bending them, listen to them when you're sticking to them as well, because they will help you to feel better about yourself in the long term. If you have a set of values, you fall back on them automatically. I always say that somebody has to change and something has to change. Let's do the assessment again. Think about whether you have any bad coping behaviors that are getting you through business crises at the moment, whether they're triggered by emotional, mental, physical, or spiritual issues. What do you do to help yourself to feel good? Do you have coping behaviors? Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is I don't have many, 10 is I have a lot, I want you just to reassess that, write down the figure, and we're going to just compare it to what you had at the beginning. So it's good to see that your figure may have changed. Sometimes they may not have, but you are assessing yourself all of the time. And look at the figure that you chose at the beginning of this session just to see whether it's changed or not. Now, I hope I did what I said I would. I hope I identified some hidden behaviors that might be impacting your business profits and looking at some of those taboo topics that also creep into the way that we cope with life when it's not going our way to make ourselves feel better, basically. I hope that I've raised your awareness of how this might be stopping you from growing in your business, might be reducing your profits, increasing your costs, getting you to examine whether you are becoming or you've become the weakest link within your business. And finally, number three, I hope I provided more than three practical strategies that can help you to reverse the impact of these hidden behaviors. Because the entrepreneur's journey is to recognize the thought emotion cycles to recognize the habits and the patterns and minimize the negative impact in your business, because you don't grow the business unless you grow the owner. That's something that I truly believe in. I practice it on myself and I practice it with the people that I work with. Now, there are some PDFs that you're welcome to have, some free resources. The 6 negative thinking patterns and habits that can happen, and they're bad for entrepreneurs. There's also the second sheet, which is the 14 negative thoughts that might be bad for business. Now, get in contact with me if you can't download them or I haven't put the link in a sensible place for you. Just let me know that you'd like those. Contact me on LinkedIn. That's where I am a lot. And you can ask me for those PDFs, just in case I haven't dropped them into the box for you. So get in touch if you recognize that you do need a new personal strategy to cope with life, because the ones that you have are just not working out well for you. I do one-to-one coaching. I also do group coaching programs. They're limited to 6 people. If you're interested in any of these, just register your interest with me. You can email me or DM me or contact me on LinkedIn. And together we can minimize the impact of these behaviors in your business and help you to stop them reducing your profits, and also help you to feel better about life so you can start increasing your profits. That's why we're in business in the first place, because you grow the business by growing the owner. These are the ways in which you can contact me. My email address is joy@joylangley.com. So please get in touch. Also, you can look at my website. That's joylangley.com. On LinkedIn, you'll find me under Joy Langley or Karen Joy Langley. Do a search and you'll find me. And on YouTube, I'm starting to put stuff out there as well. Emotional Intelligence with Joy. And remember about the book, Navigating Stress. It was a very concise book that was written during the COVID times to help you to understand and move through some of the stresses that you were going through. Some of the behaviors that I've mentioned were covered in the book too. So it's a good book to pick up, very easy to read and to work your way through. So I hope that you've gained what you've needed today. And I know that you're going to have some questions. You always have some questions to ask me. So I will stop recording and get over to the chat box. Thank you for